is Genevieve Fontana coming to you from Canisius University in Buffalo, New York, and you are listening to the Did You Know podcast. You might not know it, but we have eco-heroines around our campus working to make it sustainable for future generations. For each show, I will spotlight earth-friendly initiatives and sit down with the changemakers of our institution. Today we are spotlighting Spencer Liechty, Director of Campus Ministry at Canisius University. He is a former patients' right advocate for the Jesuit Volunteer Corps and also served as a team leader for AmeriCorps, for which he led and directed volunteer projects affiliated with Habitat for Humanity, environmental conservation, and summer camps. Spencer, in his short time here, has already provided the Canisius community with many opportunities, including his upcoming eco-justice immersion trip. Thank you so much for being part of this project and speaking with me today.
Thanks for having me.
And then would you be able to introduce yourself and explain a little bit about what you do at Canisius?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Spencer Liechty, and I'm the Director of Campus Ministry here at Canisius. I've been here about a year now, so not too terribly long, but definitely settling into Canisius in the Buffalo area. I'm coming here from Cincinnati, Ohio. That's where I went to school. I went to school at another Jesuit university down there. Campus ministry was certainly a big part of my experience in college, and so I think that's sort of what set me on this track.
Sure.
But after I graduated, like you mentioned, I did a few years of post-grad volunteer work. So I did a year with AmeriCorps, which was a lot of environmental hands-on projects.
Yeah.
And then I also did a year with the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, like you mentioned. And those, that combined with my campus ministry experience kind of set me on the path to enter the Jesuit novitiate, which is the first stage in becoming a Jesuit priest. So I did that for a little bit, and then as I was discerning out of that, loved the Jesuits, had a great experience there, but felt like I was being called in a different direction.
Sure.
And so decided after that to really go back into the campus ministry field, and so started working in campus ministry at Xavier University in Cincinnati. So I've spent a lot of time with the Jesuits, and that is sort of how I ended up coming here to Canisius, staying within the Jesuit world.
And we're so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
And then, so what does your role entail as Director of Campus Ministry at Canisius University?
Yeah, so campus ministry, I think it conjures up a lot of things when people hear that. Really at its most basic things is, we're trying to attend to the spiritual needs of campus. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't just mean going to church. I always like to start with that because I think a lot of people think, campus ministry, going to church, mass, that kind of thing.
Right.
And certainly that is a part of what we do. We have offerings at Christ the King Chapel, Catholic students, sacramental ministries, all of that. But the scope of our work is a lot greater. And so I try to be clear that we're not just for Catholic students, we're ministering to all students on campus. And we're really trying to get students to wrestle with those bigger spiritual questions of who they are in the world, what they feel called to, what they feel connected to. And so we do that through a variety of different programs that really get at that whole person development. So specifically, some of those are retreats. And so we have like our Kairos retreat that we do every year. We also have an AOC retreat for the LGBT community. And retreats, again, they don't have to be, just for someone who identifies as very religious. When someone goes on retreat, it's really literally about retreating from their normal everyday life.
Yeah.
And on those retreats, they get to, take some time for themselves. They get to build community with other students. They get to hear from student leaders' experiences. They get to share in small groups with others about their own experiences. And so I try to, again, break through the notion that they have to be, super religious or just for religious students, but really getting at, who am I? What do I feel called to?
Yeah.
So those retreats are one part of what we do, and then another big part is the service learning immersion trips, which I'd love to talk more about later too. But those are opportunities where we can take students for a week over winter break, spring break, or summer break, and really immerse them into another community, another social justice issue to really encounter and to learn deeply. And so those are opportunities we provide. Another initiative that we'll be particularly focusing more on this year is local service as well.
Oh, cool.
And so those immersion trips are great, to get out of your comfort zone and go somewhere else for a week. But there's also a lot of opportunities here in the Buffalo area too.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be focusing more, along with the New Buffalo Institute and some other campus partners, on really providing opportunities for students to get involved in the local community with service and community engagement.
Yeah.
And then I would say the last aspect of campus ministry is just community building. So,
Right.
Those low barrier opportunities to form bonds and connections with other students on campus through, various simple kind of one-off events.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
And I find it so interesting, your approach, because I think that during this time there's a lot of questions that college students ask themselves about, their beliefs and their spirituality.
Absolutely.
And I find it very refreshing how the Jesuit institution is all about giving back to others, and that's something that you really stress. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Those Jesuit values, we really try to embrace, understanding the whole person, discerning, where we're being called, being women and men for and with others. Those are the things that are really at the cornerstone of what we're trying to do in campus ministry.
Yeah, and I'm very excited about getting involved in the community, because I think sometimes we are an island, so I think that being more connected to the community will be really great for the institution.
Absolutely.
So how can our urban campus find ways to connect spiritually to nature?
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes when people think about nature, some of the first things that come to mind, I think, are the national parks and all these like wow factors, mountains, and all these things, which are great. I love those as well. But I think nature is all around us, right? And we are surrounded by nature, the air, the birds, the trees, and so I think part of the work in being more spiritually connected to that is to stop, to slow down, to become more aware of what's around us, to appreciate that. There's something, a very familiar reflection in the Ignatian Jesuit tradition is the Examen, which is a simple meditation that involves, starting with gratitude, reviewing your day, becoming more aware of what's going on inside of you and your surroundings. And there's a version of that called the ecological examen, which I like to share with people. That's basically just a spin-off of that, of, what do you feel grateful for around you in your environment? How are you being more aware of nature? And I think that can be, more aware of the beauty around us, the people that we're connected with, even just the food that we eat, slowing down and, appreciating where it comes from and the taste and the flavor instead of being in such a hurry. So I think those are some of like the spiritual ways we can be more connected. And also, our campus is really situated in a pretty amazing natural surrounding. Even though we're an urban campus, we have Delaware Park that's so close. We have Forest Lawn right across the street. We're just a short metro ride from a beautiful, massive lake. And so I think we are situated to really experience that in our campus.
Yeah, and I think that you're talking about with the ecological examen, it really takes time for you to appreciate what is around you and hopefully help make a difference as well. So that's absolutely. Really great. How has experiential learning, including immersion trips, opened students' eyes to caring for our common home?
Yeah, so I can talk about one of our immersive learning experiences that we offered last year. This one was over winter break, and we went down to Wheeling, West Virginia. And we worked down in Wheeling with an organization called Grow Ohio Valley. This is a really amazing organization that's doing some great work down in Wheeling. So Wheeling is, especially East Wheeling, is a food desert, which means that there's just not grocery stores and availability, access to fresh produce. So what this organization has done is really initiated a lot of urban gardens and urban farming to grow local fresh produce in this food desert. And so our group of students and myself went down, and we did a lot of things while we were down there. First of all, there was some direct service, so we helped them in their urban farms, mulching and that kind of thing, getting ready for the season. We also learned about the issue. We were educated about food deserts and how this is affecting the health of people, and also the idea that cities don't just have to be concrete jungles. You can you can grow food, you can have these urban gardens in cities, and so it was really cool to learn about that as well. West Virginia and Wheeling is also a very interesting place from an environmental perspective because it has a lot of coal mining, which is just wreaking havoc on the environment there.
Yeah.
And we went on a tour where we saw the coal mining companies who have just destroyed a lot of the land there, and it's having terrible effects on not only the environment but the health of people as well.
Right, yeah.
And so we got to learn about that and experience that. So that was a really meaningful, I think, experience for students to see what's possible as far as like urban garden and urban farming goes, and become more aware of those issues. So I definitely plan on continuing that partnership in the future.
Yeah, it's really cool how it comes full circle too, because our campus is located in a food desert.
Yeah.
And so different professors' initiatives to create those common garden spaces, it really connects so well to your trip.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different, communal aspects to that as well. Not only is it good for people to have access to local produce, but community gardening can really bring people together.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to happen here because we have some really great spaces, and
Absolutely.
hopefully they're go-to spots for both the campus community, but also our neighbors as well. So
yeah,
that'd
definitely.
be really cool. So I've been told that you're an outdoorsy person. How do you enjoy spending your time in nature?
Yeah, I certainly am. I'm a lifelong runner, so I ran cross country and track in college, and did a few marathons after that, and
just a few.
Continue to
it sound like no big deal.
continue to have that be a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And that is really one way I do connect to nature on just a daily basis. Is I'm not so much competitive with it anymore, but it's a great just meditative relaxation practice for me to just go for a run in the park. And so certainly that biking, swimming, I love hiking as well. I was mentioning before this that I got to spend some time in Scotland this summer.
That's
and
so cool.
Went out to the Highlands and just was able to really get away and experience a lot of great nature out there. Camping, I think, is what really connects me to nature when you're living just on the ground,
completely immersed.
right,
Yeah.
right. And last weekend I did some kayaking down here in Buffalo,
Cool.
down the river and the lake. So anytime I can get a chance to be outside, that's my happy place. So
That's great.
Yeah.
And then have you been able to? Has it been like an introduction into the Buffalo area with your running and biking, finding new areas? And
Absolutely.
Stuff like
I
that?
mean, it is such a great way to get to know a place.
Yeah.
Especially, I live around here, so I run in Delaware Park most days.
Cool,
But
yeah.
with the biking, you can cover a lot of ground,
Sure.
and so it's a great way to explore a new place. And with the kayaking, that's sort of a uniquely Buffalo thing that has access to the river and the lake around here. So I certainly have gotten to know Buffalo through the outdoors.
Yeah, that's really cool. Would you be able to share about some of the immersion trips you have planned for the Canisius community?
Yes. So I mentioned the Wheeling one that we did last year, and hopefully we'll continue that experience. But I'm really excited about a new one that we're going to be offering this year. So it's booked for our spring break next year. And we're going to be going to an organization that is situated about 30 miles north of New York City in the Hudson River Valley. And they are essentially an eco-justice retreat center and immersive learning experience. So I have not personally, I have been there, but I haven't done an immersion trip with them. But from what I understand, students will have the opportunity to both do some of the hands-on work, so work in their garden, get their hands dirty a little bit, but also all of my kind of immersive learning experiences really focus on relationship building and education as well, so learning about the issue. So from my understanding, we'll be able to meet with people who are suffering from food insecurity, understand a little bit more about that, and then also talk with organizations who are doing advocacy in this realm. So we'll get to talk with them about how do you advocate for environmental justice? What is, my personal role in that? And so I think we'll, being so close to New York City, we'll be able to take some trips into the city, possibly do some outreach there. And then, that Hudson River Valley is a really beautiful area too. So work a little bit in nature there too.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, so the whole thing will be really framed around eco-justice, hearing the cry of the earth, hearing the cry of the poor, and have those components of, hands-on service, education, advocacy.
And how do you find all these trips?
Yeah.
How do you plan them?
So that's a good question. I because I've been working in this field for a while, both here and at my previous institution, and been kind of in the Jesuit world, a lot of it is just kind of word of mouth and like hearing about them and like connections. Like there is no like website database of like here are all the good immersion trips.
Yeah.
Right. But this organization in particular, I mentioned I've been to visit them before because of a connection to a Catholic worker house that I had that was in New York City that did a retreat there, and so sort of just word of mouth and building connections. And I really want to make sure, because there are a lot of opportunities for immersion learning experiences, but I want to make sure that all the ones that we go to are very relevant issues, important issues to our time, and really do craft that excellent experience for students. So we're not just going in and doing a thing for a week and leaving, but really building it around like, okay, we'll go, we'll be immersed, we'll build relationships, we'll learn, and then we want to be encouraging students to bring that back home. So it's not just that week, it's really like, how has this experience affected me and transformed me? What is it calling me to do?
Right. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And what are some ways in which you make earth-friendly choices in your life?
Yeah, so I think this is it's a great question, and I think that we're all called to think about this and discern this in our lives. Some of the things for me personally, I am lucky that I live very close to where I work, and so I don't really have to use my car very often.
Right.
And I try to minimize car use as much as I can, especially like within the Buffalo area. I walk most places. I walk to work. I try to, if I'm going downtown, I can hop on the metro, so public transit, that type of thing. Unfortunately, my family lives, I'm not local, so I do have to drive to like go visit them, but I think transportation is one thing that I think about is, how can we minimize car use? Another thing for me is I've really, over the past several years, I've really learned about how our food choices can affect the environment. And so especially, meat consumption really, from what I've learned and read and watched some documentaries on, can really have a bad effect, and it can really have a positive effect if we can reduce some of that. And so I wouldn't call myself a full-fledged vegetarian, but I try to limit meat consumption to just maybe like once or twice a week, and really be more conscious of my food choices. And then I think too, just having sort of a minimalist mindset almost. We live in a very consumer culture where we're constantly being told that we need this and we need that, and so I try to pause and think like, oh, do I really need to buy this on Amazon or whatever it is, and try to wants over needs and relationships first, and kind of have that mindset.
Yeah, and I think that's really great you're talking about things that fit in your lifestyle, because I think some people think that sustainability choices are very daunting.
Right.
And, walking to work or traveling minimally, it works for you because you live close.
Right.
And then traveling works for you because, seeing your family. So you're not making huge sacrifices in your life, but you're doing your part.
Exactly.
And I think that's really important to highlight, because when people are very overwhelmed with things like that.
For sure.
So then we all know that becoming a sustainable individual is a process. What are some things that you hope to implement in your life?
Yeah, I think I was sort of talking a little bit about how this immersion program that we're going to be starting has a component of advocating for change. And so I think that is something that I want to integrate more into my life, is like, personal choices, individual choices are great, and I think we're all called to that. But I think we all know too, like on a big scale, like we need collective action, we need advocacy, and so thinking about like what the best ways to do that are, and then continuing to educate myself too, because I'm certainly interested and feel like this issue is important, but I'm not a full-fledged expert either, and there's always more that I can learn.
So,
right? And so one other additional thing that I'll mention that Campus Ministry is going to sponsor this year is a group of students to an annual conference called the Ignatian Family Teaching for Justice.
Oh, cool.
And so that's an annual conference of Jesuit schools and communities that happens every year in Washington, D.C., and it really is a conference about learning and advocating and teaching students how to advocate for certain issues. Mm-hmm. And over the past several years, the three main issues, there's lots of them, but the three main issues that this conference has been focused on is racial justice, immigration, and then environmental justice. And so there's a lot of great workshops and communities there that kind of teach you more about the issue and then how to advocate for it. And so I'll be taking a group of students there and hoping to learn, myself too, is like what's the best, most effective way to advocate on a large scale.
Yeah, and then it's so great that you're providing that opportunity for students as well to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what are some ways that Canisius can help you make these changes or just sustainable changes in your life?
Yeah. So when we talk about advocating, it's like, you can't do it alone.
Right.
It takes collective action. It takes a community. And so I think one of the ways that Canisius can help with this is by, providing space for people who care about these things to come together. And I know Canisius, and I've been a part of, has a Laudato Si group that meets every so often and talks about these things. And I really think that community is important when we're advocating or fighting for these tough things that we want to see changed. And so I think building that community amongst the Canisius community is great, and that way we can all kind of point out ways that we think change can happen.
Yeah, and I think it's so great during those meetings that there's so many people from different areas of campus.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so hearing their ideas and their own side of expertise is really refreshing.
Absolutely.
And it brings all the great ideas to the table.
Yeah.
So. And then what is your vision for sustainability on campus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we need to think big and small, right? And so some of the small things that we can change, I'm just kind of throwing some out here, but I know a lot of our events have plastic water bottles that they give out, and I feel like that is a small thing that people can bring their reusable water bottle and then cut down on all that waste.
Yeah.
It would probably save some money too.
Yeah.
Which is never
look at that, two benefits.
right. Other small, just having more air dryers instead of paper towels. Some of those small changes that I think can maybe more easily be made. I also think that we can think big, and one thing I want to point out is a lot of some Jesuit schools have started and successfully divested from harmful investments to the environment, so fossil fuels and that type of thing. And so by looking at our Canisius's investment portfolio and what are our investments in, what's our endowment being invested in, and divesting from some of those harmful things, and there's a model that Jesuit schools have used for that change to happen. And so I know that's a little bit more of a complicated and bigger ask, but it's certainly possible. And so I think understanding there are some small low barrier things, and then there's also some bigger goals that I think we can achieve too. But I guess ultimately having the conversation happen and having those spaces where we're talking about these things, and I know there might not be one specific sustainability coordinator on campus, but coming together as a community and thinking about how we can implement some of these changes.
Yeah, and I would love to see how you're talking about your big goal or your big ask. That's something that I didn't think of originally, and I think that would be great to look into. I know that we have some sort of connection to a solar farm, and that would be interesting to see how that is implemented in the the finances, like you were saying. So,
absolutely.
Something to look into.
Yeah, for sure. Even just to explore, because
right.
I don't know if that's public right now. So.
Right, and you don't know until you ask,
right.
So we'll have to do that. And then is there anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think just on sort of that last point is any change that happens, I think is, well, how do I want to phrase it? I would love to encourage students to get involved as possible because when you look at how does change happen at a university, at a college, students are really like the power holders, right?
Definitely,
I mean, it's like people think, administration or the board or faculty, but students are the ones that we're all here for.
Right.
And so what I've seen at other schools who have made big inroads on this is like really when it happens when students are able to organize and demand some of these changes. And so I just encourage students to get involved and to have that confidence in themselves and to really fight for what they believe in and for some of these changes and for more sustainable initiatives. So.
Yeah, and we've definitely seen that here. Like students have made the most difference, and I mean that's why we have Laudato Si on campus.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. So
yeah.
We encourage you to do things. But
yes. Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been great, and I love your project. And so, best of luck as it continues. And I'm really happy to see this happen, and grateful for being a part of it.
Thank you. Okay, so.